Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Ugh. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. We're playing some Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which I've been enjoying. It's, you know, you fall back into rhythm of old school Monster Hunter, so I haven't really had any issues with that. Although there isn't a whole lot about old school Monster Hunter that I'm like, man, I really wish this was in World. But it's not. Like, really, the only thing is just the level of content. You do have more control over your palicos in this game, which I wish was in World. Like, you can have all sorts of different support skills and abilities that they can use. You can really customize your palicos a lot more than just your little buddy in the world. So that's a bit of a downside. The Hunter Arts system is really cool, and the whole style thing, I do like that. But aside from that, I just kind of wish all of these monsters were in World, and that would probably be good enough. But since they are not, I've been enjoying it. I've been using Sword and Shield, which originally I started this game with Longsword, and then I switched to Lance, and then for whatever reason, I'm not exactly sure why, I tried out Sword and Shield, and I've never really been against Sword and Shield. I think it's kind of cool. And in this game, you get all these different Hunter Arts, which are pretty badass. There, you get like a Shoryuken, which is very sweet. You'll see it, I'm sure. So yeah, I've been digging it. Not much to complain about there. Alright, this week on this channel, we had Final Fantasy IX and Octopath Traveler, and last night I uploaded the final Octopath Traveler video, so 20 parts total. Originally, I was planning to do the optional side thing, but if you watch my 20th part, I sort of explain why I decided not to do it. So that means Octopath Traveler is done, and we have some time before the next big LP, which is going to be Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is going to be starting on the 14th, so that's 12 days from now. I think there might be some overlap, but I'm gonna go ahead and upload my Doom Let's Play, the original Doom, which I think it's like 7 or 8 parts long, something like that. And that should be good, and then I don't know when Doom 2 I would ever upload, you know, we'll just wait and see. But Doom will carry us through with Final Fantasy IX until Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And then we'll just be doing Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy 9 into Final Fantasy 10 and so on and so forth. And that's that. Not much else to say. Oh yeah, I kind of wish Monster Hunter World had these oils for Sword and Shield. That would be cool. This week on the Exploring series, I uploaded my video on SCP-001, which was a very big hit, comparatively. I didn't really expect it to be that big, but it's been doing very well. And so, you know, we're back to getting like an average of 250 subs a day, and they're all very interested in some more SCP content, which is good. The series just started, so I'm feeling good about it. This week I worked on the Dr. Wondertainment video, which is a bit of a different. I'm looking for. Bit of a different. I don't know. I'm blanking on the word I'm looking for. It's more lighthearted in a way, but that also kind of makes it creepy as well. It's a nice mix of whimsical and creepy, and a little bit scary. Because it, you know, involves toys for children that kill children and stuff. But there's, you know, when I first started reading Dr. Wondertainment, or when I first started reading SCP, Dr. Wondertainment, there was like 6 things of Dr. Wondertainment. Maybe a few more than that. There was not that many. And, like, there was only like 4 little misters written up, and although I want to say the whole list was created from the start. It's just people have been writing them since then. So there was not a lot of Dr. Wondertainment stuff, and that made it more interesting because it was very mysterious. Whereas now, like everything else, people have just tried to fill things out and try to provide stories and backstories for everything, and it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like Cube Zero. It's just you lose something when you ditch the mystery. So partly, I decided to focus the video on Dr. Wondertainment SCPs because I don't like the idea of Dr. Wondertainment being expanded upon. I think it's meant to remain a complete mystery. But also partly because I think the SCPs are just more important than who Dr. Wondertainment is. Oh! Sure, you can up this Rathalos's face. So I don't know. Some people will probably be upset that the video is not all about Dr. Isabel Helga Parvati, whatever, Wondertainment, which seems to be sort of the popular headcanon for who Dr. Wondertainment is. So there's a few popular tales that involve her being like the boss of Wondertainment. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't care for it. And there's a lot of Dr. Wondertainment SCPs now. I was shocked at how many there were. There's dozens. Dozens. And you just can't fit that many in a 13-minute video. But I think it turned out alright. It's hard for SCP to make, like, the definitive video about a subject, because these things are just constantly evolving. You know, it's not like exploring Middle-earth, where everything's sort of done and set in stone, and I can try and make a definitive video, somewhat. Or Norse mythology. Jack KO'd his stupid ass with his stamina oil. It's badass. You just sure you can. So yeah, I think it's fine. I was happy enough with it. And I think this next week, I'll be doing a video on SCP-093, which is in my top 5 favorite SCPs, of the ones that I've read, which is the Red Sea object, which by itself is, the actual object is very boring, but the exploration logs are fantastic. They sort of set the standard for good exploration logs for an SCP. Yeah, so if SCP is popular as far as an exploring series, which it very well could be based on these early statistics, I might end up sort of milking the series throughout the holidays. If you aren't aware, ad rates for YouTube videos go up quite a bit from like September through December. That's when they're at their highest. So that means, because advertisers are putting the most money into ads and commercials and whatnot, that means that YouTubers that monetize their videos get the best numbers for ad rates during that time. So it's a big deal. Like, the drop-off between December and January is massive. And so you really want to capitalize, if possible, on your big popular videos during that season. Because your revenue throughout the year is not it's not level. Like, it's not equalized throughout the year because of that. So to sort of make up for the drought in January through June, I guess, you want to have a really good holiday season. So, because of that, it would be nice to have a good holiday season, and I think SCP, if popular, could provide that, because there's certainly enough content throughout. There's enough content in SCP. For me to make videos throughout December, up to and throughout December. So even though I might normally have cut off the series at a certain point, I'm gonna probably try and extend it. Which, maybe that's a little bit of selling out, but, you know, if they're good videos, if people want to watch the videos, then what's the problem? I did get an email from some mobile game. It was like Vikings something with clans. Every mobile game involves clans, but it was Vikings something. And they wanted me to do a 30 to 45 second ad at the start of my video, talking about how great this game is that probably isn't great. And at the end of the email, they're like, oh, just specify your price. Wow, blank check. But I didn't want to do it. For one, it's not like I will only recommend products that I myself use and trust and enjoy. Well, you know, I'm not like that. But this is an especially lowbrow. I don't know. I just really don't care for mobile games, especially like that. And two, doing an ad at the start of my video, 30 to 45 seconds, for a product that isn't even remotely related to the video that I would be talking about, which in this case would be SCP, because they want to do this during September, just doesn't make any sense. And I was realistically thinking about, okay, it's not really a blank check. I'm sure they have some limit for my size channel of what they would offer. And it's like, I don't know, at best this would be like, what, a few $100s if I'm optimistic? It's like, am I that hard up for a few $100s? You know, I did the one ad, the paid promotion for like that Viking podcast. But that was because it was one guy. It was somewhat related to what I was talking about. I had just finished the Norse mythology series. It was one guy. He clearly seemed smart enough to make this podcast. It was, you know, I did listen to some of the podcast, and I respected what the guy was doing, and so we made an arrangement. It was all good. And he allowed for me to do it at the end of the video, which was especially important, because I don't like anything at the start of the video other than just content. So that worked out, but this is just, I couldn't do it. Anyways, yes. Glavinus Pyro Shell. Okay. It's a cool looking sword. Yeah, anyways, I think I'm done talking about that. So bottom line is, SCP is probably going to continue for the next few months. Although, October might be a little different. I'm not exactly sure. There are absolutely a few videos that I definitely want to make in October. I'd really like to do a video on... I think I want to do one on H.H. Holmes. Because that's a pretty fascinating serial killer story. I might do a video on witches or zombies. Not exactly sure. Sort of continuing that mythology series that I have of vampires and werewolves. And I thought maybe of doing a video on Jonestown, because that's sort of haunting as well. But October, I like to put out those videos of specifically horror-related stuff. So I don't know if those will be standard videos for the week, or if I'll try and cram and put out some extra videos throughout October. We'll see. We will see. Because if SCP is in full swing at that point, people are loving it, waiting for it every week. They might very well be interested in a video on witches, but they might also be really pissed that most of a month is just thrown away from SCP. So I don't know. I'll try and think about it. Anyways, moving on. Board games, not really much to talk about. So, role-playing in RPGs, yes. We started a campaign this week in Shadow of the Demon Lord. It's called, we're calling the campaign Gloomhaven, which is, of course, a play on Gloomhaven. But it's because the main Shadow of the Demon Lord effect for the campaign is going to be the bloom. The rapid, wild plant growth. So, as a reminder, I am playing Gug, but this is definitely the dark timeline version of Gug. This is the most evil version of Gug possible. This is an evil campaign. We are pretty much villains. We have no notion of preventing the Shadow of the Demon Lord from taking over the world or anything like that. So, inevitably, of course, the campaign will end in failure, I suppose. But the goal is to have some fun in the process. So, I am playing... Of course, there's no thunder resistance. Could just go for a lot of health. Well, what's a lot of health? 20? 40? I could go for 40 health. Okay. So I'm playing a Technomancer, I guess. I'm pretty focused on technomancy, so I want, you know, Gug has always had, Gug has always been sort of just a more evil version of Artemis. So he's got that sort of level of intellect. He tends to be a dwarf. He tends to prefer explosives and robots and things like that. And he tends to be a little bit more evil in general, but this is skewing far in that direction, and so I wanted him to be focused on gadgets and robotics and things like that, and so technomancy as one of the schools of magic, one of the traditions of magic, is definitely the way for me to go here. And so at level 1, we start at level 1. Technomancy lets me lets me fix objects. I can heal damage to objects. So that could be like... That could be a machine, you know? Or it could be something as basic as like a rope. And I don't really want to justify this as all magic, but yeah, there is definitely a magical component to what you can do. It is technomancy. It is not just, he's an engineer. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you try and ignore the magic side of it. So yeah, it's magical. This is a very new monster. So you can fix objects. He can throw a magical wrench, which is pretty funny. He can set up a bolt thrower, which is very fun. It's literally an automated turret. At the end of every round, while it's set up, it automatically shoots a big crossbow bolt at anything that I want. And it does like 2d6 damage at level 1, which is pretty solid. You can't argue with that. So I can do that once a day, and it lasts for like a minute. And so obviously that has very good combat potential. You know, any big combat, you're going to want to plop that down. But it also has out-of-combat potential. I didn't really get to utilize it this session because it was only one day and I had to use it for the big combat. But I had... Well, no, it actually wasn't one day. But it didn't... I had a thought in mind of how to use it out of combat. It just didn't come to that because of the situation. Damn. So I can also, I got like this sparking shield. So it's very Tony Stark shit. It's cool. I like put it on my arm, I activate it, and for a minute, anybody that successfully hits me in combat, they have to do an agility challenge roll. And if they fail, they take damage and they get rocketed backwards, like 1d3 yards. Which is very cool. And then I also took, not from the base rulebook, we went to a supplement, but I can make a little robot servant. So once a day for 8 hours, I can make this little, like 2-foot tall robotic servant that follows my every instruction. And so he proved pretty handy, and will likely continue to prove very handy. Oh, sure you can. And so as time goes on with Technomancy, I'll be able to make more and bigger robotic servants. I'll be able to make grenades and flamethrowers, and eventually I'll be able to make my own powered suit. So sort of a Lex Luthor robot suit that I can stomp around in, and which will make me very durable, which is good. Oh, that was beautiful. Probably shouldn't. Paintball. So yeah, I'm very excited for the future developments of the character, but it's you know, starting as a magician, it's tricky to focus only on one school of magic, because there's really not that many spells you can take, even looking at supplements and stuff. So, we hit level 2 at the end of the session, and so I decided to go with the Destruction School, which is really the opposite of Technomancy. Instead of... I didn't want to do that. Instead of creating mechanical objects and restoring objects, destruction is all about breaking objects. And so... it seems very powerful, and I think I even heard that it's pretty OP, which is fun. And I know I complained all about Godbound because everything was too OP, but it's different. Shadow Demon Lord is a much tougher game to survive in. So I think it, like, the very basic stuff, like the level 0 cantrip, basically, for destruction, lets you any size 2 object or something like that. Maybe it's smaller than that. You just like snap your fingers and it explodes. Not explodes, but it's destroyed. It takes damage equal to its health, so it just breaks. Which, that by itself is pretty damn powerful. I can think of a lot of fucking out-of-combat applications for that. And that's generally where I'm the most dangerous, is out of combat. So, I like that stuff. So anyways, we had then Thomas is playing he's playing a changeling. He's also playing a magician, but his guy is more based around he really likes playing druids. Nice. He likes playing druidic characters that can change their shape and change their form and all sorts of stuff like that. So he's going with that. He really wants to be the ultimate sort of shapeshifter. Which at level 1 there's not a whole lot of that, but he's working on that. And then we have Phil, who is playing Phil character. He's playing a human who worships the devil. That's really the most notable aspect of his character. He worships the devil. Sure you can. And so yeah, we're a merry little band. And the backstory is we were all, for whatever reason, down on our luck or whatever. And we all took this contract for this mining company. The Dunbar Mining Company, of course. Owned by Sloopy Dunbar, I'm sure. And, so we had just finished this 2-month contract of doing all this mining shit. And so we're on this train, on this 300-mile trek, getting back to Khazragar in order to get payment for our contract, which is 75 silver pieces, which is a joke. I mean, for a normal, just everyday miner, whatever, just trying to make a living, that's probably fine. But we're player characters. We require more. And so halfway through the trip, in the deep roads, in just this, you know, underground labyrinth that this train is going through, the train suddenly comes to a stop. And so, of course, Gug sees this as a perfect opportunity, because he had been planning, since he took on the contract, that he wasn't going to be happy with 75 silver pieces. He's got to get more out of this. And so, you know, hijacking this train, or stealing all of the ore that we've got on board, robbing the the foreman or whatever, you know, all that stuff. That's on the agenda. So we're in this train car. It's like not all the miners, but there's a bunch of miners in there with us. And there's also a sort of a human. Well, not sort of. He's a human wearing like robes. And he's just sort of sitting in the corner, and I guess we've like seen him before, but he's not a miner. He like just we've seen him around the camp. So I don't trust him. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. And Gug cannot throw him very far. Gug, like, walks with a limp and stuff. He's looking forward to getting his powered suit. Then I could throw him. But anyways. And so I try and, very quickly, convince the other miners that we need to revolt. This is our chance. We can take over the train, and we can earn far more than 75 silver pieces from taking over the train. And I think I convince a few of them. But then a guard comes in, sort of just a dwarven guard that works for the company, and he comes in and says that the three of us are. Our presence is requested at the front of the train by Olaf Dunbar. He wants to speak with us. And so this is, of course, the main hook for the session from Ziggy. Yeah, we're going to talk to Dunbar. He'll explain what happened to the train or something like that, and we need to go solve the problem. So it's a very, it's a basic hook. But as Ziggy should well know at this point, I don't play by the rules. Apparently he was not expecting me to do this, though. Which is especially odd, because I feel like I really mentioned this to him. Like, I told him ahead of time, like, I'm not planning on utilizing the train. I don't want to go to, like, I really don't want to go to Kazragard. Gug does not want to go to Kazragard. He's going to find a way to get out of it. However he can. So I don't know, I thought I sort of described that I wouldn't really be getting on the train and going to Kazragard. Or fixing the train or whatever. And so oh, by the way, Sword and Shield kicks ass. Don't doubt it. So the guard comes in, says that our presence is requested, and that's when I shout, of course, you know, this is our chance, take over the train, blah, 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 dwarves forever, you know, we will not be subjugated, stuff like that. And, so I think I, like, throw a wrench. I think I throw a wrench at the human guy. Because if I'm gonna kill somebody first, it's gonna be the human, because I don't trust him. And so my wrench connects with his face, and he goes prone. He gets knocked to the floor. And that's when combat begins. And I had not rallied as many miners to my cause as I wanted. And so I think a few of them even turned on me, hoping that they would get, like, a reward or something if they helped neutralize the rebels here. And so our combat begins, and it is a lengthy combat. One of our longest ever, I think, in Shadow of the Demon Lord. This took up a lot of the session because there was a lot of miners involved, and although not that many went against us, there were others that joined us, and so you got to work with all of that. And more guards showed up, and they were beefy, and the human guy turned out to be like this dark warlock, and he cast these forbidden spells on me and made me shit my pants. And so we're just 3 level 1 characters. We don't have a lot of abilities to our name, and we don't have a lot of health to our name either. So the 2 of them got beat up real bad. I think they were saving some of their abilities for later, but I don't think they understood that this was a life or death combat. You need to go all out here. Like, I think Thomas didn't want to use his Unleash the Beast or whatever ability because he didn't want people to know about it, but we could have really used it. And so basically I think I got lucky because I was very close to death, and I was partly saved by some of the miners helping restrain the warlock guy. And I was also fortunate because the hateful defecation spell that the warlock cast on me, which caused me to take some damage and then violently dispel my bowels, sort of worked in my favor, because I didn't take that much damage from it, but I basically, like, dropped my pants and just sprayed all over the guards. And I think it said, the spell says something like, those in the vicinity are impaired, or they have to make a roll, and if they fail, they're impaired for a round. Something like that. And so I impaired some guards with my shit, and so that definitely helped. And so in the end, we did barely manage to, like, we barely, I think, I want to say Thomas had like 1 HP left, I had 4 HP left, Phil had 5 HP left. Barely managed to survive, but we killed all the guards. We pretty much killed the warlock. We killed maybe a miner, and then the rest of the miners were all in on our cause at this point. Guards were dead. They had some weapons on their hands, and they could do this now. They could take over the train. So they charged forward, and we sweeped through the train. More people died, and basically, this group of miners that we recruited, they basically went into some sort of insane frenzy. This, like, blood-fueled insanity. And so apparently Ziggy was expecting us to sort of rein them in and try and calm them down or something like that, but no, we let them fully do whatever the hell they wanted, for the most part. And this was compounded by the fact that Phil's character worships the devil, and so he happened to mention that they were doing this for the devil. So they basically became just this insane, frenzied group of devil-worshipping miners. And it very quickly became a horror movie. Specifically, a little bit later on, when, like, I had sort of ripped apart the front of the train for scrap parts, which caused all the power to go out from the train. And so the only thing lighting the train was like a couple torches. And so we're just like walking through this very dark train lit only by torchlight, walking past like these these like dwarves that are probably like snarling and covered in blood. There's corpses everywhere. There's shit everywhere. Like, it was full on horror movie at that point. And that sort of set the tone for the campaign, I think. So basically, what happened with the train was they didn't have enough coal. Someone had seriously, like, depleted the coal supply from the train before they left, and nobody had double-checked it or something. And so they set off thinking they had enough coal to get there, and they only had half as much as they needed, so we stopped halfway. And so I don't know exactly what Olaf Dunbar wanted us to do. I guess there was a sort of an abandoned supply depot, like a few miles ahead, and I think he wanted us to go there and try and bring back some coal so that we could resupply. But he died. There was talk early on of taking him as a prisoner to ransom, but that plan sort of hinged on us taking the train to civilization and sort of bargaining for his ransom that way, which this was sort of the reveal that I had to everybody, was that we're not using the train at all. We're not going to Khazragard at all. We're trying to climb out of the mines vertically. And that was just not going to be easy with a tied-up prisoner. So, yeah, pretty much everybody on board died except for the miners and us. And once the power went out, it was fairly easy to convince the miners, like, you don't want to stay here on this train. Come with us. We're going to the surface. And so we grabbed a crate of ore. That's pretty much all we could handle, was one crate of unrefined ore. We put it on sort of a transportation cart, I guess sort of like a mine cart, and we just headed in a direction, actually backwards, which wasn't ideal, but that was where the cart was, and we didn't want to reposition it. So we started heading back the way we came. We walked for like 4 days or something like that. 2 of the miners disappeared randomly in the night. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows anything about where they went. They just disappeared. And so my original thought was I was looking for sort of a vertical shaft. Best case scenario was that it actually went to the surface and light sort of streamed in a little bit. But otherwise, something that just went up vertically very high. And my plan was to use the bolt thrower with a rope attached to the bolt and just sort of shoot it up out of the mines, or at least into the ceiling very high up, and then use my little robot buddy, because he's very lightweight. He would climb up the rope and sort of secure it, and then we could climb up vertically and get much higher that way. That was sort of my plan for a while, but basically we eventually walked far enough that Ziggy realized we would either die down here, and that would be the end of the campaign very quickly, or we would find a way out. And so, yeah, it's a little bit... I mean, it's just... You can't really think realistically that much when you're playing an RPG. You do have to sort of think of it as a little bit of a story. It's just not interesting for anyone if we just died randomly down there. And so he was far more generous than I thought he would be. I thought he would require a little bit more ingenuity on us to actually get out. But basically we found this side tunnel, and we did a little bit of climbing, we did a little bit of rope work, and we eventually just climbed out of a hill, and we were outside. And we didn't manage to get the crate of ore out. There's just not enough of us, and this ore is really freaking heavy. So it's hard to say how much money we really got out with as far as ore is concerned. But I think in the end we'll each make more than 75 silver pieces. Now there are other miners with us, but I'll be taking care of them before we get to town. And we do see a town in the distance. I think it's Stanton. It's like 50 miles away. So I think when we camp the next night, I'm going to tell my little robot buddy who has been keeping guard for us, because he lasts for 8 hours, so he's been keeping watch. I'm just going to tell him during the night, take like a knife or something and just slit the other miners' throats very quietly. That'll probably go wrong some way, but I think we can handle a few miners. And that's where we're at. So, yeah. Pretty crazy stuff. We'll get to Stanton, and we will try and sell the unrefined ore. It's worth a lot more refined, so maybe if I can find a way to finagle to make a nice amount of profit with somebody else's Ford. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, we're going to sell this ore that we stole to get some money. And then, I don't know what's going to go from there. We're going to check out how Stanton is. See where the money is, see where the power is, and that's what we're going to try to go for. That's pretty much the goal of the campaign. Money and power. It's sort of a sprawl campaign in fantasy. But yeah, should be interesting. The bloom effect should sort of start somewhat soon, so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I wish this guy was in Monster Hunter World, because he's a badass owl. Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to play tomorrow. I think it sort of depends. It's Labor Day. I guess Ziggy sort of had plans if the weather's good, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. This week, we've had some visitors in town. My German relative, some of you are familiar with, and her friend came to town. They've been sort of traveling across the U.S. the last couple weeks, to start in L.A., Malibu, Vegas, Arizona, Utah, Yellowstone, all sorts of places. But last week they've been in Wisconsin. I've been spending some time with them. We went out to a couple dinners, stuff like that. But yesterday they had the day free, and so it was like, you know, do you want to do something? Maybe go to Chicago. And they wanted to go to Chicago, mostly to do some shopping, I guess. And so I was like, okay, you know, we'll go to Chicago, spend the day there, get a couple meals, do some shopping, see a couple landmarks, whatever. And so I asked Ziggy if he wanted to go. And he and his wife did. And so we you know, it was... I'm glad they did. I am glad, because Ziggy drove, which is nice. And they know Chicago a lot better than I do, so... They wanted to go to, like, the Field Museum, which I know. Once in a lifetime was enough for the Field Museum. But they also mentioned the aquarium, the Shed Aquarium. And I had never been, and I guess that's more interesting than the Field Museum. And so I mentioned it to the German gals. And they said, well, how much is it? And I'm like, don't worry about it, I'll pay for it. Because, you know, I'm just big Daddy Warbucks YouTube. And then I found out, of course, it's $40 a ticket. Which is just absurd. There's no reason they should... That's ridiculous. You are not getting your money's worth. I mean, they have a lot of fish there. Don't get me wrong. But most of it is just regular, like, little fish. I mean, maybe there are some exotic little fish, I guess, but they're not particularly interesting looking. They have a whole section on the Great Lakes, which is really just, you know, for me, that's not... I've caught most of these fish throughout my life, so that's no good. And there are some highlights. It was not all shitty. They've got some cool, like, turtles and eels, and they have some sharks, some crazy big crabs, and dolphins were cool. There were some interesting bits, but $20 maybe. $40, you're just ripping people off. It was ridiculous. But I said I would pay. I paid. We paid. Whatever, it's done. So anyways, we get there late, because of course, girls will be girls. Doing their hair or whatever. And, I'll try and quickly summarize here. The day was shit, for the most part, because, we did an ungodly amount of walking. Now, I don't specifically mind walking that much. Like, I'm not that lazy that any amount of walking is just, oh god. But there was a lot of walking, and the day was ridiculously humid. Not just bright, sunny, whatever. It actually wasn't even that sunny. It was just humid as balls. And so just walking across Chicago in this nasty, humid shit. Terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. So we get there. We walk for like 30 minutes to try and go to this pizza place that they had apparently heard about and they wanted to go to. So we walk 30 minutes to get there. We walk in and it's like packed out the door. We find out there's at least an hour wait to get seated. And so we're just like, okay, nix that. So we go down the street to Euro Heaven, which I'm not really a Greek Euro food fan. But okay. Their soda fountain was in good working order. So then we walk back all the way to go to the aquarium. We do that. The smells from that place were not good. There was like, in the middle of the main lobby, there was like a concession spot, and they had popcorn, and for some reason, I don't know what it was, but the popcorn smell sort of mixed with the damp animal smell of the aquarium, and it just created this unholy mixture of aromas. It was... And it was enough said. So now we're done with the aquarium, and they want to go to Willis Tower, which I didn't even know what that was. Apparently they renamed the Sears Tower a while back. They want to go to the Willis Tower, and I was like, okay. I didn't realize how far away it was on foot. But they want to go, So we go to the Willis Tower, and along the way, they want to see the big fucking silver beam. Which is like the cloud... It's called like the Cloud Gate or something. I don't know. It's a big silver beam. You know what it is. And so... Ziggy, I guess, didn't know exactly where it was. And so we sort of went through this whole park that didn't contain it, even though we thought it contained it. And that involved a lot of walking, even though it was somewhat on the way. It took forever, it felt, to get to this fucking beam. We walked under bridges, it was raining. And even though it was raining, it was like hot, humid rain, it was shit. Just to see this fucking beam. I barely looked at it. There was a concession stand nearby. I just waited in line for that while they looked at the beam. I don't care about no beam. So we were at the beam for like 5 minutes, and that was good enough. They took some pictures and we left the beam. So now we went to Willis Tower, which also took forever. We get to Willis Tower because they want to go up top on like the sky deck to see the big view of Chicago. So we get there, we get to like the entrance to the sky deck thing, and we find out it's a 2.5-hour wait just to get up the elevator. And then once you're on top, you might have to wait a little bit longer to actually get in to the observation area. Two and a half hours. And so much later in the night, we did not do it. I'll spoil it. We did not do it. But much later in the night, while we were driving home, I was wondering what attraction on this planet would I actually be interested to wait 2.5 hours for? Because I don't think I've ever waited 2.5 hours. Well, maybe Fallout 3, the launch party. But I did not have to wait 2.5 hours. That was just me being stupid. But I guess that was probably as close as I got. But I thought, like, it would have to be like a Scarlett Johansson sex bot museum or something with an interactive tour. I would wait 2.5 hours to 3 hours for that. But yeah, the sky deck, Willis Tower, no, I couldn't care less. And so we left, and it was like, it was almost 8 o'clock at this point. They wanted to go to Hard Rock Cafe because apparently they collected like the shirts or whatever. So they wanted to go there, and we're like, okay, well, I guess we can just eat dinner there. But, of course, Hard Rock Cafe would have been another, like, 20, 30-minute... Who knows how long? I didn't even want to know. So we decided, let's just take an Uber. Finally, we had a smart idea. I don't know why I didn't think of this first, but I had never taken an Uber before, so it didn't jump to my mind. I had taken a taxi when I was in New York, and I remember it being ridiculously expensive. To go a very short distance, but Ziggy had experience, I guess, so we got an Uber. It arrived in like a minute, because they're everywhere, and it was Uber XL, so it could fit all 5 of us. The driver's name was like Ikawanga or something like that. And it fit all 5 of us, but I had to sit in the front seat, which felt really weird to me, I'll be honest. Really, I don't know, it's just, you don't sit in the front of a taxi, it's just, I don't know, man. Something about it was very strange. But it was very convenient, very nice. We didn't have to walk, we just got there. And waited at the Hard Rock Cafe. I got some alcohol in me, some nachos, and that was good. And it was only like 10 bucks. It was only 10 bucks. It was amazing. I would have done that all day. That was like the best part. This wonderful news. And so I'm like, fuck it, I'll pick up the next one to get back to the parking lot. The parking garage. So after dinner then, we take another Uber to go to the Navy Pier where we parked. And they were apparently having a fireworks display at 10:15. And so, okay, we'll just wait for the fireworks display. This was not my decision, by the way. I make it very publicly known that I really dislike fireworks. Which maybe is not an American thing to say, but fireworks suck ass. Fireworks have not, like, innovated in the last 40 years or something like that. As long as I've been alive, when I was 6, pretty much it's the same fireworks display as we saw last night. It's always the exact same thing. When when you've got like Fellowship of the Ring with like a big dragon firework coming at you and you have to dive down, that's when I'll be excited about a fireworks display. But I've seen a few of them throughout my life, and only the first one I saw was exciting for me. I don't know, I just don't get the appeal anymore. It's never changed. Maybe I'm seeing the wrong firework displays, but I don't know. And there were people like hooting and hollering, like, yeah, firework, yeah! They were clapping and shouting. It's just like, what the fuck am I, what? And then you got all these people taking pictures and videos of firework displays. Like, what are you doing? Why? People don't, like... Do people even watch, like, 4K HD fireworks shows on YouTube? I don't know. Who's watching your shitty phone Facebook videos of a fireworks show? God, it's just... That's worse than, like, filming a little phone video at a concert. It's at least like a concert is, like, a somewhat unique experience every time. Like, yeah, maybe it's the same songs, it's the same set list or something like that, but it's still like a singularly unique thing. The firework display, it's just copy-pasted. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get it. I did not vote on that, but, I just don't get it. It was like the perfect cherry to top off a shitty day. I have to watch fireworks. So finally we got back in the car. We drove home. And then... It was done. It was just done. It was just... It reminded me of the Simpsons episode where Homer goes to New York, even though he's like... He despises it, but he goes because he has to pick up his car. And at the end of the episode, Lisa is like, you know, are we gonna come back to New York, Dad? And he's like, we'll see, honey, as like garbage is hitting his face. That's kind of how I felt on the drive home. I was like, yeah, you know, we'll see if I ever come back to Chicago. I don't know. It would have been fine if it wasn't so humid and we Ubered everywhere. It probably would have been a good day, but just that shitty combination of walking in the humid, nasty weather was just... Ugh. But, you know, I like to complain. That's mostly what it comes down. I just like to complain. It makes me feel better. Alright, that about wraps us up for today. check out the Dr. Wondertainment video. We've got some Final Fantasy IX coming this week, along with my Let's Play of the original Doom. And maybe some other stuff. Who knows? But my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.